You're there and you have been asking where are these tech opportunities. Then this video is for you. We recently had a webinar where we invited people in the tech world who are looking for opportunities. And we had a very wonderful discussion where we learned different ways where so many people are not getting all these opportunities in tech. And we had a man who was taking us through all the way from US, but today he is here at Vuno Global, as good as being there. So welcome, stay tuned. So my name is Brian Gakere. I work at Vuno Global. And today we have Dr. Robert Oroni.
My name is Dr. Robert Oron. I was part of delivering the webinar. And there are some points that were actually sticking that we are here to discuss today. I think giving a little bit more background will help. I've spent over 15 years in fintech, pretty much working through a couple of Fortune 100 companies and also across different emerging technologies. So those are the things that we'll be discussing here today.
During the webinar, you really emphasized on the word being flat. Can you explain what you really meant on the word being flat, Robert?
Yeah, sure. So on the world being flat, there are several texts about it. The current affairs, there's a war in Iran, but it's affecting almost every single country globally. So if you look at just that aspect, you can see that what happens in this particular corner of the world will affect the other corner of the world. If we bring that to the tech world, the world being flat would translate to you are in New York, you are able to deliver for somebody in Nairobi. Somebody is in Nairobi is able to actually work for a company in India. And I will use India and Philippines as an example because they've done so well on making that world flat, on actually leaving that world flat. Um, there are a lot of Indian tech companies that pretty much work all over Europe or all over North America, and they are actually working in Europe or North America while they're in India. So in a sense, the world is flat. It doesn't matter where you are geographically, you can be able to still have an impact or be able to draw an income, use your expertise in a company that is really geographically far from you. So that was pretty much my focus. What I was trying to drill down with the world being flat. And just to give credit, Tom Friedman, an author, wrote a book. The world is flat. So if somebody gets a hand of that book, you'll get a clear perspective of how it applies to almost every single facet of the global economy. Uno has experts who've been on both sides of the aisle. It will be easier for us to help potential, I would say, candidates or potential prospects to kind of understand what it takes to work on the other side of the world, if I may use that word. Yes, so that's a very good question, and yes, there is.
Thank you. This leads us to our next point. You mentioned of a certain report that is released yearly that can help us to know what are these emerging technologies that we can get job opportunities on. Maybe you can mention on that.
Yes, so for emerging technologies, they're pretty much, I would say the top two would be Gartner. They have a research that comes out. Gartner is a very renowned organization. They have a research that comes out every August of every year. So right now, the latest you can look at is from August 2025. And there's also Forrester. They have a research, they call it Forrester Wave. That's also something that within technology will help you know where things are headed. So right now, if you look at, I'll just focus on the Gartner hypercycle. It's always bell shaped. What it does is that it works focused on different technologies. If I can remember, I've been following that hypercycle for over 15 years now, and stuff like 3D printing. Now everybody knows what 3D printing is, but that has been there for, I would say, at least over 6 years. Right now, majority, a very small percentage of the population know what stablecoins are. That has been there for over 2 years now. If you look at the, and we'll actually provide the link of the Gartner Hyper Cycle on this recording, but you realize that as somebody who is passionate about technology, there are things that you can start learning way before the masses. There's always a 10-year gap before it actually becomes fully implemented. Stuff like, um, cloud computing. Now everybody knows what cloud is and what cloud computing is. There's a lot of compute power from AWS, from Google, all these things that we use that are pretty much part of cloud computing, which um, if you look 10 years ago, they were like Greek to a lot of people. So that's a very important point. That's a very important research. There are other organizations that do it, but my go-to is always Gartner Hyper.
Oh, great, great. And also on learning on those technologies, do you think there is any opportunity that Vuno can have in maybe guiding people on how they can learn on these technologies?
So one thing that I would pick on right now would be disinformation technology. Right now with AI and with all this social media presence, there's a lot of disinformation that goes around, and I think if you would pick on all these different countries election cycles, there's always like misinformation all over. So there's technology that's coming out that is AI driven that will actually help with that. I can't talk about it because I haven't spent time on it, but somebody who is actually interested and driven, those are the things that they can actually start doing right now.
Fine. For anyone who is scared of learning and maybe eventually AI takes their job, what would you advise them?
So you said two things. One, somebody being scared of learning, and two, AI taking care of the jobs. Now, the one thing that I'm going to clarify and make very clear is that technology is moving at a lightning speed. So for anybody who is going to be successful in any technical field, learning is part of it. You're always going to be learning. You're constantly going to be learning because even if you look at now we're talking about AI. Let's talk about AI models like ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok or any other out there, cloud, you can see that they have new versions all the time. And if you do not learn, there's no way you're going to be able to use those new models. So learning is actually assumed knowledge. I'm being very blunt, but that's the only way I can put it. So learning is part of it. Now on AI taking jobs, what I would say is that, and I'm quoting somebody, just can't say who, I just can't think of the person who said this, but the easiest example to say is that when computers became a thing, the PCs, personal computers, there are folks who weren't used to using personal computers. The time where word processing was something you need to go learn. Right now, it's assumed that you know how to use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and all that. So if you look at that, when PCs became a thing, people actually got more jobs, more computer-related jobs. So, but people had to learn. So with AI, it will create opportunities for those who are willing to learn. But for those who are not willing to learn, there won't be a space for them in most industries. And that is something that I don't want you to just get from me. There are companies out there who have actually came out strongly, like by the way, I'm trying to think of a name, but there's a company that just let 20% of their employees go. And they said, hey, by the way, we are making 30% profit. That means we're not struggling. We're not looking for money. We have the money. We are not carrying costs. We have the money. But we are letting folks go just because they are not aligned to our AI journey. Companies are asking employees to align to their AI journey. That means learn and know AI. And what you want to do as a person is stuff like chatting with AI is going to be common knowledge. start building with AI. There's vast knowledge out there, vast materials out there you can use to learn. So learn to get yourself to a level where you can build with AI, but there's always going to be a role for you. So my answer would be AI is actually not taking jobs. AI is actually making folks work smarter.
For anyone in tech, what advice would you give them on the issues of having a portfolio and networking?
Okay. So networking is very key in a lot of ways, because for most parts, I remember back in my career, I would tell my team that let me work to keep you. So if you're telling an employee to work to keep him, that means that you should train up, you should learn so that I can work to keep you. For anybody who is in tech or any other field out there, you realize that there are cases where I have somebody in my team or I have a colleague who is doing what I'm doing so well that we are having fun working together. Now, if for whatever reason I move on to a different company and I'm faced with the same challenges that Brian was so good at, it's going to be easy for me to call Brian up and, hey, Brian, we have this role. Are you able to, or are you there? So if you build a network, then what's going to happen is that you will know before even jobs are posted that there's opportunities out there. And you're not knowing them just because a job. I would call it your expertise. You're an expert in something. So if there's a role that you can add value to, if you're able to add value, you'll always be called upon to add that value. So let's not look at it as a job. Let's look at it as your passion in IT, and you're adding a certain value. And if somebody knows that there's opportunity for you to add that value, they always reach out to you. So you don't have to reach out to them. Now, on portfolio, for a very large extent, and since we already clarified the fact that the world is flat, it's a global economy, you want to ensure that you have presence on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is by far used by a lot of Fortune 100 or global companies. So you want to make sure that you have part of building your portfolio is that you have presence on LinkedIn. Now, if you're a developer, that having a GitHub is something that goes without saying. So if you want to send your resume, you don't have your GitHub link, the link to your GitHub profile that can show people what work you've been doing, then people start wondering, okay, what kind of development are you doing? So you can find out what the standard tools are, and we talked about being able to speak across cultural lines. The good thing is that with all these AI models, you can say, hey, I want to work in Germany. What does it take? What portfolio do I need? I want to work in Australia. What does it take? What portfolio do you need to build? I want to work in North America, USA, or Canada. What portfolio do I need to do? What do I need to build? And you can find the major social professional networks that are applicable to those different geographical environments.
Thank you so much for tuning in, where we have learned how you can transition from learning to earning. And I want to tell you that you should be on the lookout at Vuno Global at the opportunities that will be posted there for the Vuno remote. Once again, Dr. Robert Oroni, thank you so much for joining us here.
Thanks for the opportunity. In fact, one thing I would say is since one big thing of any higher level learning is knowledge assimilation. So it's always my pleasure to be able to share what I know with those who are either, in this case, looking for different opportunities or want to learn about something that pretty much to me comes naturally. So I'm glad to do this. And one thing I would say is that pretty much it's the beginning of the conversation, doesn't end the conversation. So feel free to reach out to Vuno, feel free to ask questions. If you have comments, I'm sure that Brian's team will be able to get the answers.
Thank you.